Hello, everybody. Welcome one and welcome all to the one and the only Improv Bible Study channel, where the Junk Shop Library channel, where our shtick is Improv Bible Study, when we read one chapter at a time of the King James Version of 1611, because it's the one in the public domain, and then we rip it a new asshole. And we do so sometimes with highly vulgar language, and sometimes your host consumes adult beverages or smokes cigarettes on screen. So, if you are below the age of 18, you need to skedaddle off and find something else, because this is definitely not child-friendly content. And not just because the librarian is a foul-mouthed son of a gun. Did I mention we read the Bible? This also is not for children. Ass covered? Ass covered. Hallelujah. Welcome to everybody. I see Brainbug just entered the chat. Welcome, my friend. Hope all is well in the hive. If y'all don't know, Brainbug has his own channel, their own channel. And there is a fantastic video debunking some of the myths and craziness about the whole murder hornets scare over there that just went up a couple of days ago. And it is fantastic. I do love me some arthropods, and I enjoy ever more arthropod-centric content whenever I find it. Lost in the wilds of the internet. Joan is here, taking a break from Leviticus, her long and brave slog through the book of the law. Julie LaVoice is here, of course. Welcome, my love. Welcome as always. Dave was here and will be here again after he gets back from walking the dog, literally walking the dog. And of course, Paul Camish is here. Paul and Brainbug are my patrons. And this literally could not have happened the way it's happening without them. And I am so immensely thankful for everything they contribute to the library, both with their constant emotional support and with their financial contributions. It has already made an immense difference, as you can tell, to the sound quality. The new microphone is courtesy of them and their contributions to my Patreon, and it is fantastic. I love it so. Let's see if I can drag this sucker into frame real quick. Look at me, all professional and shit. Now let's get you out of frame, Mr. Microphone. All right. Paul wants a jumping spider. All righty. The sound is great, Paul says. Thank you so much. I've done my best to equalize and optimize, and assuming my internet connection holds up, I'm hoping we have another good stream today. The goal is to finish out 1 Kings today. It's only like 3 or 4 more chapters to go, and it's a pretty busy little story as I scanned ahead. So if I can keep myself on track, we ought to be able to do that. I certainly hope we are, because I done already announced that we'd be starting 2 Kings on Wednesday. Same time, same channel. Just coffee. Colors are amazing on the jumping spiders. Jumping spiders are so cool. I love jumping spiders. I love those weird peacock spiders. I don't know if those are in the jumping spider family or just sort of allied clades. I love the little bitty spiders with their great big eyes. They're so cute. All right. I have thanked my patrons. I have shown off my microphone, of which I am inordinately proud. Now we got to go dark for a second. We got to talk about Mubarak Bala. Free Mubarak Bala is the hashtag going around on the internet. I'm sure everybody here in the chat already knows, but for the benefit of anybody watching in the future, as of today, the 11th of May, the year of our Lord 2020, Mubarak Bala is still being held incommunicado in a Shiite prison in Nigeria. He was arrested for blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad for some shit he posted on Facebook, and it's bullshit. The International Association of Atheists, which was headed up by Courtney Hurd, Godless Mom on Twitter, and someone else who I have never been able to remember, and this is why I should take notes. Mr. Bala is a member of the board of IAA. He is a longtime activist for humanist and secular causes on the ground in Nigeria. He, a few years back, spent a significant amount of time in a mental institution in Nigeria where he was committed because of his atheism. And now he is in prison facing the death penalty because of his blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad on Facebook in a province where it's not even technically illegal to do that. But they arrested him based on a 16,000 signature change.org petition, whisked him off to Kano province, and ain't nobody heard from him since. So spread the hashtag, spread the word. If you can join IAA, there is a membership fee that I know not everybody can afford in these trying and belt tightening times, but certainly spread the word, spread the hashtag, spread the movement. And whenever you can, tag in the Nigerian police force and the Nigerian president, and there's somebody else that Godless Mom encourages us to tag, and I can never remember who the third one is, which again is why I should take notes. Thank you, Julie. Yes, indeed. He's in big trouble. There are rumors of torture, none of which rumors have we been able to substantiate because nobody has seen him, including his lawyer. So it's a big deal going on right now. And we just there's not much we can do outside of spread awareness and name and shame. Hey, Brainbug, there's your channel. I clicked the wrong thing. We'll go ahead and plug the Brainbug channel. Go over and check out the Hive. Subscribe and notifications on. All right, Nerdy Rodent is in the house. Smite everyone before they smite you. Nerdy Rodent loves the smiting. As does Miss Angie. Miss Angie is in the house as well. Welcome, welcome to Granny. Always good to see you. Happy to have you all here. All righty. Well, without further ado, I'm going to explain the title of this stream, and then we'll launch right into the big book of war crimes and outdated regulations, stolen utter madness and abuse. When I was a child, not only did I think as a child and act as a child, but I was raised as a Christian child. And one of the major elements of that was Christian propaganda, such as this. This is an honest-to-God comic book based on the adventures of Elijah, complete with graphic imagery of the prophets of Baal slashing themselves with swords. And of the capture and massacre of said prophets. I don't know if you can see this one down here at the bottom. Which page am I looking at? Yeah, right here. Where the after they've captured the prophets, they take them down, and all you can see of them afterwards is little red swirls in the water. My folks couldn't figure out why I got into horror so young. It was a total mystery. It befuddled them and confused them. Raise somebody with stories like that and paintings of some naked dude nailed to a piece of wood and bleeding out all over the place, and then wonder why they might develop an affinity for the horror genre. It's the weirdest fucking thing. Who could ever predict? At one level, I'm so glad they did, because y'all know me, and y'all know how much I love me some horror. I love horror reading. I love horror watching. I love horror listening. If you ain't listened to Seth Andrews' Ghost Stories audiobook yet, you're missing out. You better get it quick before it becomes hard to find in the outrush of horror-themed audiobooks that always inundates us right around Halloween. All right. So, continuing adventures of Elijah, the prophet of fire, the massacrer of the prophets of Baal, who, last we heard of him, was running his happy ass ahead of Ahab's chariot all the way back to Jerusalem. Stuttering Chris is in the chat. Welcome, Christopher. Always good to see you, my friend. Would you and Julie come to Faithless Forum 2021? We would absolutely love to, assuming, the world is open again by then. We've got a little time to save up that money between now and next year, thankfully. All right. I got to change my banner real quick. Credit where credit is due. I can delete that one because I'm not going to be talking about our governor today. There we go. Yes, I would love for us to go to Faithless Forum. I'd love to meet everybody. Nerdy says, it's okay. Trump is opening America now. I say. All right. We turn today to chapter 19 of the first book of the Kings. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. And then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. When he saw that, he arose and went for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, behold, an angel touched him, and said unto him, Arise, and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baked on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. And the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Arise, and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. I'm cutting my head off with this camera. Let me see. It's a little better. Technology and junk shop. Marriage made in perdition. And he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mountain of God. And he came thither unto a cave, and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. And he said unto him, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, Go forth, and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and went out, and stood in the entering in of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him, and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. And Jehu the son of Nimshi shalt thou appoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha the son of Shaphat of Abel Meholah thou shalt anoint to be the prophet in thy room. And it came to pass that him that escapeth the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay, and that him that escapeth from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha slay. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which hath not kissed him. So he departed thence, and found Elisha the son of Shaphat, which was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and he with the 12th. And Elijah passed by him, and cast his mantle upon him. And he left the oxen, and ran after Elijah, and said, Let me, I pray thee, kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow thee. And he said unto him, Go back again, for what have I done unto thee? And he returned back from him, and took a yoke of oxen, and slew them, and boiled their flesh and the instruments of the oxen, and gave unto the people, and they did eat. Then he arose and went after Elijah, and ministered unto him. And there we have chapter 20, or 19 rather, of 1 Kings. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Cake, says Nerdy Rodent. Cake or smiting, such a choice. Oh, Paul's got Ghost Stories audiobook, and it is brilliant. Yes, yes. And she got some of that smiting that she loves so much. Came to the right couple of streams, Miss Angie, for the smiting. Elijah, prophet of fire, is big on the smiting. Boris opened the UK today. That's not going to go well. I've heard that y'all are not ready. The Lord passed by. He should have kept going, says Paul. Mr. Shadow Kitty in the house. Welcome. Welcome, my friend. Angie says, still listening, but eating pizza makes chatting tough. Nerdy says, I'm not leaving my house for months. Yep, same here. We are only leaving for supply runs when we absolutely must do a supply run. I am not fucking around with this fucking virus. Oxen smiting. Yes, not even the oxen are immune to the smiting in this story. All right, so interesting turn of events, really, in this story. Ahab, after having had all of his prophets and all of Jezebel's prophets, I'm sorry, y'all, this angle is just annoying me no end. There we go. That's better. Ahab, having seen the slaughter of all his prophets, and as we discussed last time, likely all of Jezebel's prophets of Asherah as well, goes back to wherever his headquarters are. It's not Jerusalem at this point, is it? Sorry, this is not a part of the story I know well enough to just rattle off. Jezreel. Sorry, Jezreel. That's right. Jezreel, where he's headquartered and ruling from. And he tells his wife what had happened, that his 450 prophets of Baal and her 400 prophets of Ashtaroth had got themselves all smoked and murdered down by the river by this renegade prophet who can make fire come down from the sky and lick up water. And she don't take too kindly to it. But she doesn't take it up with Ahab. She sends a servant to speak to Elijah, who's outside the gate. And she gives the ultimate Old Testament oath. May the gods do to me, be it ever so severe, if I don't kill your ass fucking dead. And Elijah says, you know what? Queen Jezebel sounds serious. So he runs away. He stashes his servant in some other town a little ways off. And he goes a day's journey beyond that into the wilderness and sets up camp under a tree and prays to God. And says, you know what? I think I've probably accomplished enough. And if it's all right with you, I'd like to just pass away quietly in my sleep right here instead of dying of whatever horrible death crazy, wicked Queen Jezebel has in mind for me in revenge for me slaying her 400 fertility prophets. And he goes to sleep. And an angel comes to him and taps him on the shoulder and wakes him up and says, hey, I brought you some food and some water. He says, okay, well, I had really asked that you come here to kill me, but I'll eat the food and the water if that's what the angel of the Lord says. And he eats the food and he drinks the water and he lies down and goes to sleep again. Well, after a while, the angel comes to him again, taps him on the shoulder and says, hey, you've got a long ass journey ahead of you, so you need to eat more food and drink more water. And Elijah says, well, I had really intended on being killed by an angel of the Lord, if not by the Lord himself. But since you're here and since there's food, I'll eat the food and then drink the water. And he does. And he's filled with so much strength from the mighty meals that the God of meat and water has provided for him, that he hies himself off through the desert for 40 fucking days on the strength of those 2 meals of bread or meat, whatever it was, 2 meals and 2 cruises of water, 40 days through the burning ass desert, TM, all the way to Horeb, the mountain of God. And he climbs up the mountain and he climbs into a cave and he sits there and waits to figure out why the fuck he is here. Comes a wind so strong it shatters the rocks. And then nothing else happens. Comes an earthquake. Earthquake so big it shakes the mountain. Comes a fire. Big ass fire. Nothing happens. And then he hears, Elijah, Elijah. And he goes, hey, Linda, welcome. Always good to see you. And so he goes to the entrance of the cave and kind of looks around. Where the hell is that voice coming from? He hears it again. Elijah. Elijah. And he says, what? God says, yo, it's me. You're safe. I want you to go to town over yonder. And I want you to anoint a new king over Israel. And I want you to anoint a new king over Judah. And I want you to anoint a new prophet in your stead. And Elijah says, okay. He heads off. And he finds this kid out there somehow running 12 teams of oxen, plowing a field. He says, hey, kid. And he takes his cardigan off and throws it over the kid's shoulders. He says, here, behold, you now wear the mantle of prophecy. Literally. And the kid says, hey, wait a minute. I gotta go say goodbye to my family. Elijah says, oh, pshaw. He says, no, seriously. And before Elijah can say anything, he's taken 2 of his oxen, butchered them, killed them. Hopefully not in that order. Made a meal out of them and served all his servants and family and Elijah. And that's the end of the chapter. And as for the rest of the weird shit that Elijah did, are they not written in the book of the Acts of the Kings of Israel? Not actually in the text, but it might as well be. All right, let's see how the chat, when the chatters rocks shudder. Yeah. Oh, Mr. Shadow Kitty says, we walked 2 blocks from the house earlier and had to run back home. This situation is now turning me agoraphobic. You and me both, brother. I had to go out for, what was it, fish food yesterday, day before, something like that. Had to go out for fish food. I got into the store. They're all out of fish. All they've got is food. The staff is wearing masks. None of those customers wearing masks. I look like an insane person in there, walking in wearing a mask and gloves, and everybody else just going about their business the way they normally do. But you know what? I'd rather look like an insane person than end up a dead person. Y'all should too. Wear your fucking masks. Wash your fucking hands. Wear gloves if you can find them. Shit. The whole world has gone insane. Paul Camish says, you're scaring me with the voice. Oh, the still small voice into the microphone? Joan says she thought it was a bit sensual and spooky. Not 2 words that normally go together, but I'll take it. All right. Well, not a lot to get into in chapter 19. Honestly, you've got the sentence of death passed on Elijah by Queen Jezebel, and you've got Elijah given his mantle both literally and metaphorically to young Mr. Elisha, based on the word of some teeny tiny voice he heard up in the mountains while his ears were still ringing from the tinnitus of a hurricane and an earthquake and a giant ass blazing fire. That's when I do my best work, is when my ears are ringing with tinnitus in the aftermath of a hurricane and an earthquake and a giant ass blazing fire. That's when I trust my faculties most. Jesus fucking Christ. Angie says, watching this makes me so happy. Well, I'm so glad. Doing this makes me so happy. And I'm so glad that that is shared by all of y'all. I say it all the time, I know, but I love the community that we've built here. It's fantastic. Hit that thumbs up down below. All right, so chapter 20. Chapter 20 is a little long, but I just saw the word slaughter jump out at me off the page, so we know it's legit. We know it's Old Testament goodness. Brainbug says all the cool kids are here. Yep. And Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, gathered all his host together, and there were 32 kings with him, and horses and chariots. And he went up and besieged Samaria and warred against it. And he sent messengers to Ahab, king of Israel, into the city, and said unto him, Thus saith Ben-Hadad, Thy silver and thy gold is mine. Thy wives also and thy children, even the goodliest, are mine. And the king of Israel answered and said, My lord, O king, according to thy saying, I am thine and all that I have. And the messengers came again and said, Thus speaketh Ben-Hadad, saying, Although I have sent unto thee, saying, Thou shalt deliver me thy silver and thy gold and thy wives and thy children, yet I will send my servants unto thee tomorrow about this time, and they shall search thine house and the houses of thy servants, and it shall be that whatsoever is pleasant in thine eyes, they shall put it in their hand and take it away. Then the king of Israel called all the elders of the land and said, Mark, I pray you, and see how this man seeketh mischief. For he sent unto me for my wives, and for my children, and for my silver, and for my gold, and I denied him not. And all the elders and all the people said unto him, Hearken not unto him, nor consent. Wherefore he said unto the messengers of Ben-Hadad, Tell my lord the king, all that thou didst send for to thy servant at the first I will do, but this thing I may not do. And the messengers departed, and brought him word again. And Ben-Hadad sent unto him, and said, The gods do so unto me, and more also, if the dust of Samaria shall suffice for handfuls of all the people that follow me. And the king of Israel answered and said, Tell him, Let not him that girdeth on his harness boast himself as he that putteth it off. And it came to pass, when Ben-Hadad heard this message, as he was drinking, he and the kings in the pavilions, that he said unto his servants, Set yourselves in array. And they set themselves in array against the city. And behold, there came a prophet unto Ahab, king of Israel, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Hast thou seen all this great multitude? Behold, I will deliver it into thine hand this day, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. And Ahab said, By whom? And he said, Thus saith the Lord, even by the young men of the princes of the provinces. Then he said, Who shall order the battle? And he answered, Thou. Then he numbered the young men of the princes of the provinces, and they were 232. And after them he numbered all the people, even all the children of Israel, being 7,000. And they went out at noon. But Ben-Hadad was drinking himself drunk in the pavilions, he and the kings, the 32 kings that helped him. And the young men of the princes of the provinces went out first, and Ben-Hadad sent out, and they told him, saying, There are men come out of Samaria. And he said, Whether they be come out for peace, take them alive, or whether they be come out for war, take them alive. So these young men of the princes of the provinces came out of the city, and the army which followed them. And they slew every one his man, and the Syrians fled, and Israel pursued them, and Ben-Hadad the king of Syria escaped on horse with the horsemen. And the king of Israel went out, and smote the horses and the chariots, and slew the Syrians with a great slaughter. And the prophet came to the king of Israel, and said unto him, Go, strengthen thyself, and mark, and see what thou doest, for at the return of the year the king of Syria will come up against thee. And the servants of the king of Syria said unto him, Their gods are gods of the hills, therefore they are stronger than we. Let us fight against them in the plain, and surely we shall be stronger than they. And do this thing, take the kings away, every man out of his place, and put captains in their rooms. And number thee an army like the army that thou hast lost, horse for horse, and chariot for chariot. And we will fight against them in the plain, and surely we shall be stronger than they. And he hearkened unto their voice, and did so. And it came to pass at the return of the year that Ben-Hadad numbered the Syrians, and went up to Aphek to fight against Israel. And the children of Israel were numbered, and were all present, and went against them. And the children of Israel pitched before them like two little flocks of kids, but the Syrians filled the country. And there came a man of God, and spake unto the king of Israel, and said, Thus saith the Lord, because the Syrians have said, The Lord is God of the hills, but he is not God of the valleys, therefore will I deliver all this great multitude into thine hand, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. And they pitched one over against the other 7 days. And so it was that in the 7th day the battle was joined, and the children of Israel slew of the Syrians 100,000 footmen in 1 day. But the rest fled to Aphek into the city, and there a wall fell upon 27,000 of the men that were left. And Ben-Hadad fled, and came into the city, into an inner chamber. And his servants said unto him, Behold now, we have heard that the kings of the house of Israel are merciful kings. Let us, I pray thee, put sackcloth on our loins, and ropes upon our heads, and go out to the king of Israel. Peradventure he will save thy life. So they girded sackcloth on their loins, and put ropes on their heads, and came to the king of Israel, and said, Thy servant Ben-Hadad saith, I pray thee, let me live. And he said, Is he yet alive? He is my brother. Now the men did diligently observe whether anything would come from him, and did hastily catch it. And they said, Thy brother Ben-Hadad. Then he said, Go ye, bring him. Then Ben-Hadad came forth to him, and he caused him to come up into the chariot. And Ben-Hadad said unto him, The cities which my father took from thy father I will restore, and thou shalt make streets for thee in Damascus, as my father made in Samaria. Then said Ahab, I will send thee away with this covenant. So he made a covenant with him, and sent him away. And a certain man of the sons of the prophets said unto his neighbor in the word of the Lord, Smite me, I pray thee. And the man refused to smite him. Then said he unto him, Because thou hast not obeyed the voice of the Lord, behold, as soon as thou art departed from me, a lion shall slay thee. And as soon as he was departed from him, a lion found him, and slew him. Then he found another man, and said, Smite me, I pray thee. And the man smote him, so that in smiting he wounded him. And the prophet departed, and waited for the king by the way, and disguised himself with ashes upon his face. As the king passed by, he cried unto the king, and he said, Thy servant went out into the midst of the battle, and behold, a man turned aside, and brought a man unto me, and said, Keep this man. If by any means he be missing, then shall thy life be for his life, or else thou shalt pay a talent of silver. And as thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. And the king of Israel said unto him, So shall thy judgment be, thyself hast decided it. And he hasted, and took the ashes away from his face. And the king of Israel discerned him that he was of the prophets. And he said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Because thou hast let go out of thy hand a man whom I am appointed to utter destruction, therefore thy life shall go for his life, and thy people for his people. And the king of Israel went to his house heavy and displeased, and came to Samaria. And there we have chapter 20. About 3 times as long as it really ought to be. All right. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Ooh. More voices. Come, says Nerdy Rodent, gather the children and listen to a holy story of slaughtering. Indeed. Julie says, can y'all believe our parents thought we needed to hear this stuff as children? Although I did have a book, Christian Nursery Rhymes, really strained the rhyme scheme. We had a tape, story songs of the Bible. I still know about 90% of it by heart. We listened to it no absolute end when I was a kid. I'm not going to subject y'all to it right here and right now, but it's rolling around in my head right now. I'll tell you that. And yeah, there was murder and smiting in those children's songs too. You are no longer named. You all have a number, says Nerdy. Yes, all kill them all. Kill the horses too, as there don't seem to be any oxen left. Yep. Nerdy's on top of this story. Just keep killing things until there aren't any things left for you to kill. Yep, that's pretty much the Yahweh way. Brainbug, will they keep the little ones for themselves after the battle? No word of little ones. This seems to be just a full-on pitched army-to-army battle without, except for, that the guy wanted all of Ahab's wives and children, just wanted to take everything away from him. Linda says, the day's good deed is done. I took the garbage out and started the dishwater. Feel so proud of myself now. That sounds like a productive day. It's hard for me to be productive lately. This whole pandemic thing weigheth heavy upon me, and I'm not my most productive. That's why I switched to the scheduled streams, because I found that if I was just doing streams when I felt like it, I never fucking felt like it. So. Yes, men are asking for smiting now, says Julie LeVoice. Everything else has been smitten, so we have to. Yes, exactly, Nerdy. Yeah, that's the part of this. I mean, I understand the point that's made at the end, but I don't understand this weird masochistic, oh, smite me, my brother part of the story. Is weird. It's just fucking weird. I can't help but feel there's something lost in translation between the ancient Aramaic and the 1611 English. Wouldn't be the first fucking time. Morton's in the chat. Hello, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Yes, smiting bargains, says Julie LeVoice. Morton's got to get back on the road. Have fun. He'll be listening. Well, we'll be chatting. Happy Jesus. He smites all his photos. Happy Jesus. There is blood wherever he goes. Yeah, not too far off, to be honest. Dave is back. Welcome, Dave. Always good to see you, my friend. All right, let's see. Hey, Doorknob Head, welcome. Man, we just got all the cool kids here today, don't we? Okay, so essentially, this is just the story. I mean, aside from the weird negotiations about who's going to get what in the aftermath of the battle or to forestall the battle, the point of this story is essentially just the story of Nathan and David and Bathsheba and Uriah all over again, right? It's a remake with a higher body count. This is the Michael Bay remake, the Platinum Dunes production. And this prophet disguises himself with ashes on his face and says, Joan points out the only decent man in this story gets eaten by a lion. Exactly. The prophet disguises himself with the ultimate disguise. ashes on his face, and sets up camp where he knows that the king's going to be passing by. And as the king passes by, he spins him this parable. And the king says, well, the at-fault person should die. And the guy rubs all the ashes off his face and says, ha ha! I am a prophet of the Lord. You have said it, and you shall die. And Ahab goes all disconsolate back to his house and has himself a little pity party. And that's the end of the chapter. But Platinum Dune killed the Friday the 13th franchise. Didn't you like you didn't like the Jared Padalecki Friday the 13th? I kind of dug it. Paul says there's so much smiting going on, I'm going to have a beer. I think Paul's got the right idea. Just coffee. All right. Again, not a lot to get your teeth into in chapter 20. Just some battling that turns out to be not as much of a battle as they thought it was going to be. Some negotiation that turned out not to be as much of a negotiation as they thought it was going to be. And judgment passed against Ahab the king for being a douche and for not following the word of the Lord. All right. Hey, y'all, guess what? There's 22 chapters in the book of 1 Kings. We're about to start chapter 21, rather. This is the longest dearth of Friday the 13th films ever. You are correct, Mr. Brainbug. Try being a Hellraiser fan. All right, 21. I remember this story. This story is awesome in kind of a gross Old Testament way. And it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard which was in Jezreel, hard by the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. And Ahab spoke unto Naboth, saying, Give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it, or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. And Naboth said to Ahab, The Lord forbid it me, that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. And Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed, and turned away his face, and would eat no bread. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him, and said unto him, Why is thy spirit so sad, that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, Give me thy vineyard for money, or else if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. And Jezebel his wife said unto him, Dost thou now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise, and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, and sealed them with his seal, and sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in the city, dwelling with Naboth. And she wrote in the letters, saying, Proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. And set 2 men, sons of Belial, before him, to bear witness against him, saying, Thou didst blaspheme God and the king. And then carry him out and stone him that he may die. And the men of his city, even the elders and the nobles who were the inhabitants in his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. They proclaimed a fast and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came in 2 men, children of Belial, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme God and the king. And then they carried him forth out of the city and stoned him with stones that he died. Then he sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. And it came to pass, when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money, for Naboth is not alive, but dead. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab rose to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite to take possession of it. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Arise, go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, whither he has gone down to possess it. And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Hast thou killed, also taken possession? And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith the Lord, In the place where dogs licked the blood of Naboth shall dogs lick thy blood, even mine. And Ahab said to Elijah, Hast thou found me, O mine enemy? And he answered, I have found thee, because thou hast sold thyself to work evil in the sight of the Lord. Behold, I will bring evil upon thee, and will take away thy posterity, and will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel. And I will make thine house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah, for the provocation wherewith thou hast provoked me to anger, and made Israel to sin. And of Jezebel also spake the Lord, saying, The dogs shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Him that dieth of Ahab in the city the dogs shall eat, and him that dieth in the field shall the fowls of the air eat. But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up. And he did very abominably in following idols, according to all things, as did the Amorites, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard these words, that he rent his clothes, and put sackcloth upon his flesh, and fasted, and lay in sackcloth, and went softly. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Seest thou how Ahab humbleth himself before me? Because he humbleth himself before me, I will not bring the evil in his days, but in his son's days will I bring the evil upon his house. And there we have chapter 21 of the first book of the Kings. God need to make up his fucking mind. All right. See what's been going on in the chat. Representing 3 continents here at least. Yes, indeed. Doorknob Head says 21 is old enough to smite. Jones says, what a whiner. Yep. Yep. Not the first time Ahab has thrown a hissy fit, but certainly the most spectacular. Paul says, just eat the fucking bread, will you? Liberty points out, if you can't buy someone's stuff, just kill them and take it. Yeah. The King Ahab school of economics. Brainbug points out, a religion of love. Oh, yes. We are loving that, and we, I say, and I am unanimous in this, we are loving the new Brainbug avatar. It's fantastic. Julie says, a religion of love. Love me, or I'll kill you, and your children, and your children's children. And your little dog, too. Everybody's cracking up in the chat. I love it. Brainbug says, I'm molten. That explains that. Yeah, Julie says, now we know where J.R.R. Martin got the dogs trained to eat people bit. That's funny. Okay, so biggest temper tantrum so far in this fucking book. The kings of Israel need to stop looking out of their windows. Seems like every time we get a story that starts with them, the king looked out of his window, he sees something that ain't his and ends up murdering somebody to get it. You know, a vineyard, somebody else's wife, various other property. Don't you ever let anybody tell you this book is not misogynistic. This is the most misogynistic pile of crap you're likely to find on an average bookstore shelf. Except maybe for 50 Shades. All right. So, Ahab looks out his window one day, sees the vineyard of Naboth. Apparently notices it for the first fucking time. Says, you know what would look good there instead of a vineyard? An herb garden that was mine. So he goes to Naboth. He says, you know what would look here better than your vineyard? My herb garden. Gimme. I can give you a better vineyard or I'll pay you for it. Either one, but gimme. Naboth says, are you out of your fucking kingly mind? This was my father's and his father's before him and his father. Dabba, 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 dabba. I am not giving you my inheritance so you can play gardener. He goes off to the house. Ahab too goes off to the house. He throws a hissy fit. Lays down in his bed. Turns his face to the wall and will eat no bread. Well, after a while, Jezebel notices. Says, why ain't you eating? King, ruler of Israel, husband mine. And he says, I want something that belongs to somebody else. And they won't give it to me, and they won't sell it to me. Jezebel says, oh, for fuck's sake, you're the king. Get Jesus fucking Christ. Give me your signet ring. I'll take care of this shit. What is it you want anyway? He says, I want the vineyard of Naboth next door. She says, fine, we'll fix this. And Ahab turns his face back to the wall and continues to pout, apparently not having a great deal of faith in his wife, Queen Jezebel. Queen Jezebel forges some letters in the name of the king and seals them with his seal. And sets up an elaborate peacetime version of the same shtick that got Uriah the Hittite dead and Bathsheba transferred into the ownership of King David way back in the day, for which he got in trouble with God because these fuckers don't learn. He says, let's have a party. Put Naboth the grape farmer at the head of the table. Sometime in the midst of the party, find two scoundrels who don't mind bearing false witness to say, we heard this motherfucker blaspheme against God and against the king. And so it goes. Then the people rise up and say, hey, two witnesses. That means you did it. They drag him out of the city and they throw rocks at his head till he dies of the stoning. They send word to Jezebel and say, we threw rocks at his head, and he's Ahab's room where he's still pouting with his face to the wall and eating no bread. Says, hey, you can have that vineyard now. He said, how in the world did you convince him? She says, well, it wasn't so much a matter of convincing him as of throwing rocks at his head till he died from the stoning. And Ahab says, cool. And he goes down and takes possession of the vineyard and transforms it into his own private little herb garden. Word of the Lord, or word of this interesting sequence of events, comes to the prophet Elijah. The prophet Elijah comes to the king. Says, hey, King Ahab, ruler of Israel by the anointment of God Most High, you done fucked up. Your house will no longer rule over Israel because you did a murder to get yourself a property. And Ahab says, oh, I fucked up bad, didn't I? And he puts on sackcloth and moans and says, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. It doesn't bring back Naboth. And he doesn't give the vineyard over to Naboth's offspring or next of kin because he wants an herb garden. And the word of the Lord comes to Elijah the Tishbite, the son of Tishbe in Gilead. It says, hey, you remember that whole thing I told you to tell Ahab about taking the kingdom away from him and his descendants? Well, he's putting on quite a show of repentance. So I'm going to hold off till after he's dead to take away the kingdom from his son in revenge for the sins of him. And Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead says, makes sense to me. Welcome to the Old Testament, y'all. Bad shit happens to you. It may or may not be your fault. Your daddy may have fucked up and then put on a good enough display of repentance to where God doesn't give a shit and just rains on your parade rather than the parade of the motherfucker that fucked up to begin with. Said it before, I'll say it again. Weird fucking book. I did learn this story back in my Sunday school and church and days, in all its extravagant detail, with the dogs eating and the carrion crows pecking and the licking up the blood of the queen. They didn't shy away from this one. All right, let's see how the smiters are doing over here in the chat. Smiters? Is that what I should call my fan club? The smiters. Let's see. Mr. Shadow Kitty says, herb? Hashtag weird fucking book. Thank you, Linda. Linda's got me. Was Ahab a Rastafari? Does Ahab mean the herb which Jaja has sown? Who knows? Angie says, poor Tot doesn't get his way. Herbs would definitely help. Maybe there would be less smiting if they were all stoned. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Mr. Shadow Kitty. Joan points out, whoop, chat move fast. A question. What happened to the two false witnesses? We don't know. That's the last we hear of them. These sons of Belial, who lied a lie about blasphemy that got an otherwise perfectly normal grape farmer stoned with stones until he died. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. It's on the list. It's in the top 10. Except, of course, if you're commissioned to by the Queen. Hashtag the Smiters. I like it. I like it a lot. Matter of fact, this gives me a good opportunity to point something out. When you're writing a hashtag, capitalize each individual word. It helps out the people who have to use screen readers to read social media and web pages and such. Smiters. Julie says, I think the Smiters is going to be a thing now. I'm going to make it a thing. My house, my rules, power. Y'all are way too much fun. I love this so much. Wow, that coffee's getting cold. That's right. There's only one more mouthful left. I'll be down in that here in a second. All right, so the deaths of Ahab and Jezebel have been prophesied in all their gory detail. We've got one more chapter of the book of 1 Kings, and we've only been going a little over an hour. That's amazing. All right. Smite makes right. All right. Chapter 22. And they continued 3 years without. Yes, my love?
Just pass me your mug.
Oh, sorry. Sure. Why not? It's all right.
I thought I could come up here and sneakily get it.
Our house is a very, very, very smiting house. All right, chapter 22. And they continued 3 years without war between Syria and Israel.
Wow.
Thank you, my love.
3 whole years.
And it came to pass in the 3rd year that Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, came down to the king of Israel. And the king of Israel said unto his servants, Know ye that Ramoth in Gilead is ours, and we be still, and take it not out of the hand of the king of Syria? And he said unto Jehoshaphat, Wilt thou go with me to battle in Ramoth Gilead? And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, I am as thou art, my people as thy people, my horses as thy horses. And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, Inquire, I pray thee, at the word of the Lord today. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, about 400 men, and said unto them, Shall I go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And they said, Go up, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of the Lord besides, that we might inquire of him? And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, There is yet one man, Micaiah, the son of Imaiah, by whom we may inquire of the Lord. But I hate him, for he doth not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the king say so. Then the king of Israel called an officer and said, Hasten hither to Micaiah, the son of Imaiah. And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, sat each on his throne, having put on their robes, in a void place in the entrance of the gate of Samaria. And all the prophets prophesied before them. And Zedekiah, the son of Kenana, made him horns of iron. And he said, Thus saith the Lord, with these shalt thou push the Syrians until thou have consumed them. And all the prophets prophesied so, saying, Go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the king's hand. And the messenger that was gone to call Micaiah spoke unto him, saying, Behold now, the words of the prophets declare good unto the king with one mouth. Let thy word, I pray thee, be like the word of one of them, and speak that which is good. And Micaiah said, As the Lord liveth, what the Lord saith unto me, that will I speak. And he came to the king. And the king said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall we forbear? And he answered him, Go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the king said unto him, How many times shall I adjure thee that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord? And he said, Well, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills as sheep that have not a shepherd. And the Lord said, These have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, Did I not tell thee that he would prophesy no good concerning me, but evil? And he said, Hear thou therefore the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said on this matter, another said on that matter. And there came forth a spirit, and stood before the Lord, and said, I will persuade him. And the Lord said unto him, Wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, Thou shalt persuade him, and prevail also. Go forth, and do so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil concerning thee. But Zedekiah the son of Canaan went near, and smote Micaiah on the cheek, and said, Which way went the Spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto thee? And Micaiah said, Behold, thou shalt see in that day, when thou shalt go in an inner chamber to hide thyself. And the king of Israel said, Take Micaiah, and carry him back unto Amon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son, and say, Thus saith the king, Put this fellow in the prison, and feed him with bread of affliction and with water of affliction, until I come in peace. And Micaiah said, If thou return at all in peace, the Lord hath not spoken by me. And he said, Hearken, O people, every one of you. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and enter into the battle, but put thou on thy robes. And the king of Israel disguised himself and went into the battle. But the king of Syria commanded his 32 captains that had rule over his chariots, saying, Fight neither with small nor great, save only with the king of Israel. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, they said, Surely it is the king of Israel. And they turned aside to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. And a certain man drew a bow at a venture, and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. Wherefore he said unto the driver of his chariot, Turn thine hand, and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. And the battle increased that day, and the king was stayed up in his chariot against the Syrians, and died at even, and the blood ran out of the wound into the midst of the chariot. And there went a proclamation throughout the host about the going down of the sun, saying, Every man to his city, and every man to his own country. So the king died, and was brought to Samaria, and they buried the king in Samaria. And one washed the chariot in the pool of Samaria, and dogs licked up his blood. And they washed his armor according to the word of the Lord which he spake. Now the rest of the acts of Ahab, and all that he did, and the ivory house which he made, and all the cities that he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Ahab slept with his fathers, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. And Jehoshaphat the son of Asa began to reign over Judah in the 4th year of Ahab king of Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shilhi. And he walked in all the ways of Asa his father. He turned not aside from it, doing that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. Nevertheless, the high places were not taken away, for the people offered and burnt incense yet in the high places. And Jehoshaphat made peace with the king of Israel. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, and his might that he shewed, and how he warred, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And the remnant of the Sodomites, which remained in the days of his father Asa, he took out of the land. There was no king in Edom, a deputy was king. Jehoshaphat made ships of Tarshish to go to Ophir for gold, but they went not, for the ships were broken at Ezion-Geber. Then said Ahaziah the son of Ahab unto Jehoshaphat, Let my servants go with thy servants in the ships. But Jehoshaphat would not. And Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father. And Jehoram his son reigned in his stead. Ahaziah the son of Ahab began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 17th year of Jehoshaphat king of Judah, and reigned 2 years over Israel. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord, and walked in the way of his father, and in the way of his mother, and in the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. For he served Baal, and worshipped him, and provoked to anger the Lord God of Israel, according to all that his father had done. And there we have the 22nd and final chapter of the first book of the Kings. More great wickedness and massacre. Note to self, don't make peace with the Syrians. God don't like it. All right, let's see what's going on over here. I saw some busy chat going by. Let the smite one in, Nerdy wrote. Smite, you're on candid camera. That's a different kind of show. I might watch that. Smite Wars. The Empire smites back. Are y'all trying to make Julie laugh in the background? Yes. Yes, my love, I think they are. Paul says, did I miss anything? I had to take a phone call from work. I smithed them? Smited them. Well, I think you missed the story of the sons of Belial accusing and the stoning of Naboth so that King Ahab the Wicked could get his herb garden outside his window. It's mostly just been genealogy and alliances, honestly, the last little bit. Not a lot going on. Yeah. Is it a death cult? And then Julie says, I didn't think it was a death cult when I was a child, but I see it now. Me too. I think if Christians think about the death parts too much, they get cognitive dissonance. Yep. It's only one death that really matters in the book, and it's the one that doesn't take, it only lasts 2.5 days. Nerdy is playing Make Julie Laugh, the new amazing game here on #TheSmiters. Oh, yeah. 3 whole years of peace, Julie points out. 3 whole years of peace between Israel and Samaria. That blood ain't going to lick up itself, says Doorknob Head. Yeah, that's true enough. Brainbug says he's still listening. Brainbug is still listening, but will be tending to hive business for a few. Get on it, Rover, says Nerdy Rover. Yeah. Help me clean up this mess. Joan says she probably doesn't understand prophesying. Does anybody fucking understand prophesying? All right. So the interesting part of this chapter is the lying prophet who doesn't get smoked. Mr. What was it? Micaiah, was that his name? Yes, Micaiah. So there's 400 prophets. Ahab's raised up again 400 prophets, this time of the Lord, not 400 prophets of Baal that got themselves all smoked down in the Kidron Valley. 400 prophets of the Lord who are apparently real good at telling him exactly what he wants to hear, and one rogue prophet, Micaiah, who's forever telling him bad shit's going to happen, as a result of which Ahab don't like him. So Ahab and Jehoshaphat make an alliance, and they're going to go up against the city of Thingamus over here. And they call the 400 prophets together before them and say, should we or shouldn't we go out against Thingamus over here? Yeah, no one does, Joan, because it makes no sense, says Julie LaVoice. Yeah, Joan says, after a few books, I'm still looking for a plot. Julie says, so am I. Yeah, tell me about it. Ain't no plot. This is, I'm going to stick by what I said way back yonder in the olden days of the Pentateuch, morally bankrupt collection of short stories. There's no through line here. It just happens. It's all just a shared universe with a bunch of crazy authors writing the most batshit stuff they can think of and throwing them all in together. They need a good editor is what they need. Where's Steven Zemianowicz when you need him? All right, so he turns to his loyal 400 prophets. And he says to his loyal 400 prophets, should we go out, allied as we are, and war against the thus and so whites? And they cry with one voice, you betcha! Do whatever your heart desires, O king, the Lord is with thee. Jehoshaphat says, that was some pretty unified prophesizing. You got any, shall we say, outliers? Ahab says, well, there's Micaiah, but I don't like him. He doesn't tell me good shit. He always tells me bad news. I don't like it. Jehoshaphat says, well, let's hear from him. Let's hear from the loyal opposition. And so Ahab sends word to Micaiah. Says Ahab wants to hear what the Lord says to you. And the messenger takes Micaiah aside and says, hey, buddy, I know you and Ahab have this kind of fucked up dynamic where you're always giving him bad news, but Mr. Ahab's not in a good mood right now, and now might be the time for you to fall in line with the other 400 prophets. If you catch what I'm saying, because Mr. Ahab, he's a little bit on the warpath. Micaiah says, fuck you. God speaks to me, I'm going to tell old Ahab exactly what God says to me. So there. It's what being a prophet is all about, after all. God damn it. And so Micaiah goes down to town. And Ahab says, hey, what do you think about us going to war over against Thingamus? Micaiah says, oh, just fucking do it. You've got your heart set on it anyway. The Lord says it'll all be fine. Ahab says, you out of your fucking mind? The one time it actually seems to matter, you're going to come to me and tell me the same stuff as the 400 others that are speaking with one voice here? How many times I got to fucking tell me what God actually says to you? Apparently, this is a running thing. This is the only instance of this. It's documented in this fucking book. But can you imagine how funny that would be if we had like the entire history of Micaiah and Ahab and the fake prophecies and the real prophecies? Since apparently it's a long running thing that Micaiah gives bad prophecies to Ahab, downers, but he's apparently lied to him enough times to where Ahab has had to charge him specifically to tell only the things that God tells him and not just what he thinks Ahab wants to hear. I'd like to know that story. I'd also like to know what Yahweh thinks about this, that Mr. Micaiah is running around all over the place giving false prophecy, and yet the word of the Lord still comes to him. What's going on with this? False prophets have not generally had a good life in this book. The last one got eaten by a lion in the middle of the road. Remember that? Jumped on by a lion in the middle of the road and torn and killed. And then the lion stood there next to the donkey waiting for random passersby to take word of it back to Jezreel. But Micaiah, apparently Mr. Micaiah special. So Micaiah says, well, you fucking asked for it. Don't do this. This is not what God wants you to do. Don't fucking do it. You will die. And the people will be scattered each to their own homes. And Ahab, of course, listens to the word of the Lord, as he always does. Takes the 400 suck-up prophets, takes their word of what the Lord says, goes charging off into battle, but not before swapping out his kingly raiment for some other poor motherfucker and disguising himself as a common soldier. The enemy is only interested in the king. Says, don't even bother fighting with the charioteers and the horsemen and the foot soldiers. Just look for the man in the kingly raiment and get him. So they come to the man in the kingly raiment, not hard to find in a army full of poor-ass people with no specific glorious raiment, no ephod, no nothing. Drink. But they get to the man in the kingly raiment and they say, hey, you're not the king. Never mind. They leave him alone. And some rando in the middle of the battle decides he's going to start shooting fuckers. So he draws an arrow and shoots some poor son of a bitch in the back at random. And it just so happens to be the king. The king says to his charioteer, get me the fuck out of here. I have been shot in the juncture of the harness. So off they go. And then he dies and his blood fills up the chariot. And so that it doesn't stain the chariot, they got to wash all his blood out of the chariot. And while they're washing his blood out of the chariot, the dogs come along to fulfill the prophecy and say, blood, yum, 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 lap, 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 lap. And thus was the prophecy fulfilled. Oh, Paul is now in self-isolation for the week. Goody, goody. I'm so sorry to hear that. Do you have symptoms or were you just exposed? Self-isolation is never fun. Self-isolation on top of the crazy industrial grade lockdown that y'all have over there. Oh, no, I forgot. That's been lifted, hadn't it? Shit. So sorry to hear that. And so they bury the king. That's what the phone call was about. Paul feels fine, but had been in contact with someone who did have it. Oh, gosh. Well, I'm so sorry, and I hope the best for them and for you. Jiminy Cricket. Well, I've never known anybody who actually been in contact with it, but I can't say that no more. So my best wishes, Paul. Take care of yourself and be safe. Angie's got to get going. Kids want to swim. Yeah, we'll be wrapping it up here in just a couple of minutes. Love from Texas, says Angie. Love from Tennessee. Y'all take care and y'all have fun. Yep, I'm not going to plunge into 2 Kings now. We've been going 90 minutes, so I'm going to be wrapping this up here shortly. Because as somebody pointed out, hang on, who was it? I want to credit where credit is due. Somebody said something about a cliffhanger. Oh, Nerdy Rodent says that was a real cliffhanger at the end there. Yeah, it was. Got to make sure you turn the page over and start reading 2 Kings as well. All right. Well, this has been fun. We had smiting and lying and murder and all the kind of crazy ass shenanigans that we have come to expect of the big book of war crimes and outdated regulations, utter madness and abuse. I'm going to make that into the thumbnail for one of these days. Really poke the online Christians. See if we can stir up a little trouble. Angie says, don't forget to smash that like button. Thank you, Angie. Always looking out for me. All right. So, yeah, ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. Ahab's dead. Jezebel's still alive. And the kingdom is at war. And we got false prophets all over the place. And there's no way of telling where this is going to go. So you'll just have to tune back in, same time, same station on Wednesday, the 13th, to find out where it goes, when we will be plunging into the depths, well, not the depths, but the shallow end, at least, of the 2nd book of the Kings. Thank you all so much for joining us. I love you all. I am so glad to see you every time. My little cadre of loyals right here. It's fantastic. I've said it before. I may have said it before on this stream, but I'm fairly highly caffeinated, so I'm not sure. It's the community aspect of this that I love. Making friends, making connections all over the world. We've got multiple continents represented just here in the stream today. Just the dozen of us that were here. Yeah, Paul, keep in touch. We'll be thinking of you. Won't be praying for you, but we'll be thinking of you. Everybody else, keep up your social distancing. Even if your government is stupid and says it's okay to return to business as usual. Wear your masks. Wear your gloves if you can find them. Wash your fucking hands. Tweet it out. Free Mubarak Bala. All we can do at this point is fundraise and awareness raise. So we got to find out what's going on. He's one of us, and he is incommunicado in a bad place. Yeah, Paul says thoughts, but no prayers. Thanks. Agreed. All right, smiters. We will see y'all again on Wednesday. Thank you so much for sticking with me, sticking around, and for having such a lively chat over here. Morton said, will you promise us more smiting in the second book? I know a little bit from my Bible school and church days of what goes on in the book of 2 Kings, and there is smiting indeed. I can promise you smiting. All right, y'all. We're going to roll out of here. Until next time, everybody take care. Be safe. Wash your hands. Fight against hate. And a massive thank you, as always, to my wonderful patrons. Literally couldn't be doing the show at the quality we're going right now without you. Thanks so much. Love to all y'all in your various cities, various continents, and various time zones. Bye now. End the broadcast. Yes. Hello, computer. Checkbox.